Welcome to another one of my reviews. I know it's a bit atypical, but I really am in a rush right now, and this is the only way I could find to talk to you about our Lord Jesus Christ. No, I'm kidding. To talk to you about our Lord Volkswagen, if you will. To talk about the Volkswagen Touareg. So I've had this car for a couple of days, but it has been hectic. But I didn't want to miss out on the chance to talk to you about this car because it's actually quite amazing in a number of ways. And I would definitely be as bold as to call it a budget Bentley Bentayga. I know it's a bold claim, I know. And I know it's going to ruffle a lot of feathers back in Bentley's headquarters. But the thing is, this is a very good car. I'm not kidding whatsoever. Of course, it will depend on how you spec it out. And to that end, I must say that the adaptive air suspension is a must, as is the integral steering option, which turns your rear axle into a steering one, especially if you're going to use this car in busy, crowded cities, especially if you're going to use it also in older cities where the roads tend to be a bit narrower than usual. Like you just saw me driving right now, I was able to navigate those narrow streets very easily due to that optional extra that is fitted to this car, which is the rear steering. And it makes a huge difference on a car that is this big. So the Touareg got a facelift a couple of years ago. Didn't really change that much because it was a good recipe. They didn't have to change anything to that end. And the car we are driving is a rather interesting mix. I like the fact that it has the R style package, which is meant to bring it closer to an R model. So it's a bit more aggressive than all the other models, ranges, model choices, model lines you could choose from. We also have the black styling package, which turns all the chrome bits on the car into black bits and creates a more powerful contrast as well. But I don't like the exterior color choice. This is a Daytona gray car, which is rather dull in my book. I mean, this is a great car and it deserves a great color on the exterior. Choosing gray for it shows just lack of imagination, lack of creativity. You could go for so many other better choices. I think a blue finish would be nice for this car, as well as black. I mean, I would always choose black over gray, but that's just a matter of taste, a matter of personal preference. But the car looks good overall. It's boxy as it should be. We're talking about a Touareg at the end of the day, so it should be boxy, and it is boxy. And it's so big that if you look at the rims of this car, they are 20-inch wheels. They seem rather small compared to the total size of the car. And that tells you all you need to know about how massive it is. The good part is that when you're driving it, it doesn't feel that big. And a lot of the credit goes to the rear steering system, as I already mentioned, that makes this car and parking it a lot easier. Let's talk about the interior for a bit. So we have the R style package, as I already mentioned. So we have R logos on the seats. We have a very good mix of materials in here. We have natural leather and synthetic leather, and you can't really tell them apart. I don't know if that's good or bad, but you can tell me. So we have a very well spec'd car over here. The central screen, the central multimedia screen, has a total diagonal of 15 inches. It is absolutely huge. And the multimedia system does respond really well. It looks really sharp, and I really can't complain about it. I can't complain about the fact that the Android Auto or Apple CarPlay connection is done with a wire, which is weird, especially in 2022. And I can also complain about the fact that it's not displayed on the whole screen, just like a mirror right in the middle. It's big enough, don't get me wrong. You will see all the information you need. But it is quite peculiar how they couldn't push it to the outermost extremities, if you will. Even so, the system works flawlessly, and behind the wheel we have a 12-inch digital instrument cluster that also works flawlessly, and it can show the information in a number of ways. You've seen that on the Golf, the Passat. It looks roughly the same. It's just bigger in terms of size. And we still have those bullshit touch sensitive buttons on the steering wheel that I really don't like. As a matter of fact, they have cleared out almost all the buttons in here, so everything is done through this screen. Luckily, it's well set out and it works really well, and it's not too heavy on the eye, so a lot of the writing and the details on the screen disappear whenever your fingers are far away from it. But as soon as you approach the screen, a number of icons pop up to help you make your desired choice, and I like this approach. It also has gesture control. You can switch between pages using your hand, just doing this, but I don't really see the point in doing that when you can actually just touch the screen and it's the same result. Well, never mind that. The car is absolutely huge inside. As I already said, the fit and finish is worthy of a premium badge, I would say. I mean, there isn't a lot to separate this car from a BMW X5, for example. Okay, so the mix of materials is that good, and it's well put together as well. No squeaky noises, no weird vibrations, no nothing of the sort. And you have ample amounts of room both up front and in the back. Actually I can sit in the back and actually recline a bit, and I would still have a lot of room, even with a driver of my size in the front seat. So I'm 6 feet tall and about 250 pounds, and I would fit perfectly in any position in this car. No issue whatsoever. The trunk can fit about over 800 liters of stuff in it. So if you fold the seats, it goes up to 1800 liters or something like that. Massively huge amounts of space inside this car, both as a passenger and for luggage. So no issues in that regard either. But the biggest surprise came in the suspension department, because this car is incredibly comfortable. So the platform is shared with cars like the Porsche Cayenne, Audi Q7, Audi Q8, Bentley Bentayga, and Lamborghini Urus. All of these cars are built on the same platform, and basically this is like the cheapest one you can get built on this platform. Furthermore, as I said, if you get that €1,700 optional feature that brings the air suspension into the mix, as well as adaptive dampers and rear wheel steering, this car drives like an absolute dream. It soaks up the bumps brilliantly. It is incredibly comfortable, incredibly quiet in here. You don't hear a squeak out of the suspension, and it is absolutely brilliant. As a matter of fact, it's that good that I would say it is even better than the Bentayga. I know a lot of people will get mad at me for saying this, but the Bentayga has bigger wheels. You can get 21-inch wheels on this car as well. And the Bentayga has a sportier setup. So it's stiffer than this car, even in comfort mode. So yeah, if you want the ultimate comfort, I would suggest getting this. The Cayenne is also stiffer, and the only one that can compete with this car in this regard, I think, is the Q7. Because yeah, they have the exact same drivetrain and the exact same suspension setup. So I'm guessing the Audi will be quieter. I didn't get to test drive the Q7 yet, so maybe I can compare it when I get to drive that car. Let's talk about the drivetrains for a bit. So you only get V6 engines in the Touareg range right now. So either you go for petrol or diesel or a plug-in hybrid choice, but you won't get a V8 anymore, or a V10 or a V12 as older Touareg models used to have. So you have two diesel choices, a 231 horsepower V6 3-liter engine, as well as a 286 horsepower V6 3-liter diesel engine. Then you have this engine, which is the petrol V6. It's a 3-liter V6 with 340 horsepower and 450 Newton meters of torque. And it is an engine you've seen on a number of VAG group products, from Volkswagen, like this one, to Audi models, including the A8 has this engine, to Porsche models, the Cayenne has it, the Macan has it, the Panamera has it, and so on. So it's a very popular engine choice in the VAG group. and it's a very good engine. I'm going to talk about it later on. There's also a plug-in hybrid choice if you wanted to, with 462 horsepower or something like that, that uses this engine and an electric motor as well. So you have plenty of choices to pick from. Surprisingly, you might think I would go for this one. I wouldn't go for the diesel 3-liter 286 horsepower one. I had that car for testing purposes a while back, and it is a brilliant car as well. But the main issue I have with it is that it's a diesel. Maybe that's not necessarily an issue, but this engine is so economical, and considering the gas prices right now, this would be a better choice overall, because even though the diesel does sip less fuel, since diesel itself is more expensive than petrol right now, you would get very small advantages in terms of running costs. For example, this car drinks about 16 liters of petrol around town, whereas the diesel makes do with about 12 liters. So there is like a 25% difference. But as I said, diesel is a lot more expensive right now. Outside the city limits, these are very close when you're choosing to go on a set of B roads, winding B roads. The fuel consumption for both of them is 7 liters per 100 kilometers covered. And on the highway, yet again, the diesel has the upper hand with 8 liters per 100 kilometers covered, whereas this one will be closer to 9.5. And yet that small difference, I think, is worth it when you're considering this car has 340 horsepower compared to the diesel's 286. Furthermore, this is a faster car, so it will do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 5.9 seconds, and the top speed is 250 kilometers an hour. So there is a difference in terms of performance as well, and it's a lot cleaner and it sounds better. You have a lot less vibration inside the car, and I would simply go for the petrol. I know it's weird saying that, especially on a car that's this heavy and big. And about that, the Touareg is actually quite light when we're talking about the petrol version. This car only tips the scale at 2,030 kilos, so just a bit over 2 tons. That's incredible. Think about this for a second. The Mercedes AMG C63S that was just launched earlier this year tips the scales at 2.1 tons, and it's not nearly as big as this car. So this is a light car by all accounts and purposes. It's quite amazing how light it actually is. Leaving that aside, it's also great to drive because you have an 8-speed ZF gearbox over here. It's the 8 HP gearbox. You get the same gearbox on the diesel as well, and you get the 4-motion all-wheel drive system, which is a torsion system because the engine is mounted longitudinally, and it's quite a performer in off-road and on the road. So you can drive this car in sport mode in a sportier fashion with no issues whatsoever. Sure, you will feel that you're sitting a bit higher. There is some lean, but the car actually drives brilliantly. Not so much with the diesel, which, as you already know, does run out of breath over 5,000 RPM. This one pulls up to 6,500 RPM. So yet again, an advantage for the petrol choice overall. And the gearbox in this car has been set up pretty well. It does its job brilliantly. I haven't noticed any issues with it whatsoever. It's very smooth, and whenever you want to drive in a sportier fashion, it keeps up with you every single time. Of course, we also have additional driving modes like off-road, snow, and so on top of eco, normal, comfort, and so on. So those will come in handy whenever you need them. I didn't need them, I didn't test them out, so I can't really tell you how they work, but they seem to be doing their job brilliantly. But the fact that I love the most about this car is its refinement. The Touareg has gone up in refinement a lot over the last generation or so, and it's absolutely brilliant. If you can simply look past the badge, I think this is a great bargain compared to a Bentayga, if you will. I think this is a very good value for money, even though this car has a sticker price of 85,000 euros. Well, Depending on the market you're in, maybe you will find it cheaper or maybe it's going to be more expensive. The starting price will vary, and depending on where you're at. Over here in Eastern Europe, the prices start at about 72,000 euros, and with all the optional features this car has, it has gone up to 85,000. So I would like you to tell me in the comment section below if you like the new Touareg, if you had the chance to experience it, and if you would choose it over its more premium brothers in the Volkswagen Audi group range. Of course, as usual, don't forget to like, share, and of course subscribe. Until next time, don't forget to feed your passions. Ciao.